Tonight on News 5 Live, cooler heads prevail. The Deputy Prime Minister Patrick Faber meets with the BNTU to hammer out a solution for the vexing issue of education rules. The Supreme Court strikes out PSU's land case against Simplex Design Limited. Is the union's eviction inevitable? Paraíso resident Jesus Monterroso and Diego Correa of Libertad are the two men police have charged for separate murders in Concepcion village in Corozal. The contractor general takes the oath, and the Lev Derman fraud case will have a report from Salt Lake City. Details of these stories and more coming up in tonight's newscast.
Signing up for Smart's broadband got even better.
For Tuesday, February 4th, I am Marlene Cuellar. Tonight, there is a sigh of relief among the Ministry of Education and the Belize National Teachers Unions, and temperatures are cooling down. Deputy Prime Minister Patrick Faber took a detour from his campaign trail today to meet with the BNTU at length in an effort to arrive at a mutual agreement on amendments to the existing education rules. It was a critical meeting that came on the heels of a press conference on Monday, which was hosted by the National Trade Union Congress and saw the participation of the BNTU. During that media brief, Senator Elena Smith, National President of the Teachers Union, expressed frustration with repeatedly being disrespected by the Ministry of Education. While she did not directly threaten industrial action, the firm position that the BNTU has taken in respect of the education rules may have been sufficient for the Minister of Education to call a meeting today at the ITVET in Belize City. The meeting concluded shortly before 4 o'clock this evening, and when the BNTU executives emerged from the conference room, it was to report that progress had been made regarding matters of concern for the union.
Well, indeed, we did make some progress on some of the matters that we raised, and there are other matters that we need to work together to fully ventilate those and come to agreements on those areas.
Okay, so would you be willing to give us details on in which areas you felt good progress was made and which areas you feel that, or the BNTU feels that needs to be more addressed?
Well, in terms of the proposed amendments, the matter of the vacation period, you know that was a big issue, and so we agreed that those would remain as is, and so there would no longer be any amendments to the vacation rules. The matter of contracts as well, we've agreed that contracts will be given to teachers, and those will be indefinite contracts, but there are some other areas in the contracts that would need to get some legal advice on them before we proceed, and it was also agreed that in doing that, the final document will be shared with us, so that teachers would be satisfied that in that contract it would indicate or it would show when those teachers initially began teaching.
The aspect of who the ministry officials consult with, because today the minister spoke about different stakeholders and that when they go back to GAMAS, they may suggest certain things and then that may change what has been agreed. That's what he referred to. What is your perception on that?
Well, I don't know if those consultations that he would be having with those other persons should have an impact on our decisions today. A few of them, yes, in terms of our CPD hours, where we have to look at what will be offered to our teachers during the summer or other times during the year. And we know that will have to have some consultations with the stakeholders, which includes the management and ministry personnel as well as BNTU.
Deputy Prime Minister Patrick Faber, who was flanked by Chief Education Officer Dr. Carol Babb at the meeting, also felt confident that the meeting had a positive outcome, despite not being able to resolve all of the points raised by the union. He told reporters this afternoon that contrary to what has been reported, his ministry has always been open to sit down with the union.
I want to say that I'm very optimistic and very happy at the outcome, but of course that is my view. The unions may tell you something else. We were able to discuss what I certainly considered to be the main part of what we set out to discuss, which is the three issues having to do with the amendment that was being proposed last year. And I will remind people what those amendments are. Firstly, having to do with the Christmas break. The second one having to do with the contracts. And the third one having to do with the hiring of emergency administrators and teachers for emergency situations. On the matter of the first issue, the Christmas holiday, we discussed that matter, and I put a proposal to the union. The proposal was that we scrap the amendment because they claimed that there were some sinister motives, which I tried to assure them was not the case. We are never at that point where we are not able to have a discussion. That was news to me. And I think that that is a misconception that people have, and a misconception that is probably being fed right now by those who want to see me put on the heat at this time of the convention. Not accusing anybody, but that certainly has to be the case, even if it is among Her Majesty's loyal opposition, the PUP. There is some heat that they would want to see turn up on me at this time. And so, you know, they're trying to make it seem like I am not always able to engage with the union.
News 5's Hippolyta Novello is in Salt Lake City, Utah, covering the trial of accused fraudster Lev Derman. It's a huge tax fraud case involving over $1 billion, involving money laundering, and extends to Belize. That's because Derman is said to have met and associated with several politicians, including sitting UDP cabinet ministers. One of those ministers is John Saldivar, who confirmed that he met Derman in 2013 and last saw him in 2015. Derman's influence had reportedly penetrated Barrow's cabinet, as Jacob Kingston, owner of Washakie Renewable Source, says that monies were paid to a government minister. Kingston says this can be proven through text messages shared between him and the minister. The proposed court exhibit states that the minister is allegedly Saldivar, who has rejected any suggestion of his involvement in any act of fraud or bribery with Derman. Saldivar says that at no time has he used his office for any such vile quid pro quo activities. Kingston was scheduled to testify today, but his testimony was delayed. Hippolyta Novello has the latest from Salt Lake City.
Here in Salt Lake City, Utah, the case against 53-year-old Armenian businessman Lev Derman continued before a federal judge. Inside the courtroom today, dressed in suit and tie, Derman seemed very relaxed while his LA attorney Mark Geragos made several objections to file several motions to strike out specific statements by witnesses. During the prosecution's quest to establish several connections and listen keenly to any mention of Belize, during Monday's trial, broker Greg Perham mentioned Belize after he was questioned about several instances where he met Lev Derman. Perham briefly mentioned a trip to Belize in 2013, but that statement was struck out from the record after Geragos objected due to speculation. We do know that Derman is a holder of Belizean nationality that he received in September 2013. In court today, during the revision of a 2019 deposition, Belize was mentioned once again. The witness spoke of a meeting in which Lev Derman appeared in Miami, Florida, where Derman's guests had dinner at a Russian restaurant and later headed to Nikki Beach for drinks. The witness said that the group included about 20 persons, and in that group, he said, quote, the ex-president of Belize, end quote, was present. No name was mentioned, and the prosecution continued with his line of questioning. Derman is charged with 10 counts of fraud, including money laundering and mail fraud. Derman, who owns Noil Energy, is accused of devising an intricate plan with Jacob Kingston and others to buy and sell biodiesel through Washakie Renewable Energy, which is owned by the Kingston brothers. Now, Washakie was housed in this building right behind me, but as you can see, it has been permanently closed. Now, one of the other companies set up by the Kingston brothers was also housed in this building, and its name United Fuel Supply. Now, that company was created because Washakie had received bad reputation here in Salt Lake City. Now, the purpose of this plan was to claim renewable tax credit from the IRS, which they did to the tune of more than $500 million US. Now, why is this important to Belize? That's because Lev Derman's tentacle has penetrated the government, and now the Barrow administration is on its toes. One of the key witnesses, Jacob Kingston, is yet to testify, and he is expected to reveal the context of the text messages shared between himself and allegedly John Saldivar, who has denied any allegation of receiving bribes by Kingston, Derman, or any of Derman's associates. Reporting from Salt Lake City, Utah, Hippolyta Novello, News 5.
The trial was adjourned to Wednesday. As the Lev Derman trial continues in Utah on the home front, the effects of the scandal is rippling across all strata of Belizean society, rocking the United Democratic Party and the government, which is under fire for having advocated for a diplomatic post for the incarcerated businessman. Deputy Prime Minister Patrick Faber has finally weighed in on the debacle, which stands to impact the UDP's chances of winning a fourth consecutive term of office. Faber told the media today that he only met Derman in passing and reiterated that he never received any campaign finances or bribes from the alleged Armenian-American fraudster.
What did your government see in Lev Derman? What would he have been able to offer your government that your government felt that he could have been given a diplomatic position in the United States?
Honestly, Louis, I don't know. I don't have that kind of information or knowledge about what kind of business he was engaged in at all. I was not a part of making a recommendation for him to be not an ambassador or an honorary consul. I don't know of that business until it was made public that this was the case, and that in fact, when the Prime Minister asked, you know that I was not in cabinet, I had been attending the inauguration of the new Guatemalan president, so I did not learn of any minister's involvement in terms of making a recommendation about that until afterwards. So I cannot say that I know of any value of what characteristics or traits or resources or whatever he would have brought to the table in order for us to consider him favorably. That is not something that I would know. I said to you loud and clear, again I repeated that I have never received not even, I think the way I put it was not even 25 cents, much less 25,000 monthly or any other. Nor, you're right, not from him or from any associate. So no, I can tell you that categorically in the same manner in which I can tell you about the Danny Mason issue. I've never received monies from them, nor have I ever received those large sums of money from any donor politically. That leads me to other issues, of course, of campaign finance reform, which I think is very important. I've seen where these issues can really cripple us, and I put that on the record that I am all for campaign finance reform. As it relates to my knowing him, yes, I knew him, as is the case, and I only met him in passing, not a single conversation, not a kind of communication regularly, certainly no text messages, as I saw the Associated Belize Press generate an entire document to say that the text messages were actually between Kingston and me. That is absolutely fabricated.
The scandal-ridden UDP is gearing up for a leadership convention this weekend, after which it will also prepare for general elections. Amid the Lev Derman scandal, as well as the recent Auditor General's audits on the National Sports Council and Holy Technical High School, how will public outrage on these matters impact the party's chances? Deputy Prime Minister Faber admits that it's a black eye on the party, but maintains his position that the UDP remains on good footing to win the forthcoming general elections.
How badly has this scandal, in your opinion, rocked the party? And of course, what are the chances of the effects coming forth before the 2020 general elections?
Well, as you've heard the Prime Minister say, in terms of the government aspect of things, I agree perfectly with his position. It is that we must have the proper evidence for some kind of concrete action to be taken. As bad as people may want to see something else happen, it has to be that due process is given to consider any kind of harsh action like that against anybody in the cabinet. I think that is the just thing to do on the part of the Prime Minister. But certainly as it relates to perception, I think our party has taken a blow, whether or not it is true, whether or not it is factual that these kinds of engagements have been made by my opponent or anybody else. It has really caused the party to be put under pressure. And in that regard, I am saying that it's going to be very difficult. It has made our chances to move ahead a bit more difficult, but it does not make it impossible. In fact, I think that our position to win a fourth term in government is very strong. I think that we are certainly far more in a position to win that fourth term to win another term or to be re-elected, I should say, versus the PUP's chances of coming back. And I am positive that with the healing that will come after this convention, certainly if I am the leader of the party, I will make all presses to do that.
At midnight, there will be some relief for consumers as the prices for regular gasoline and kerosene will go down at the pumps. Regular gasoline will decrease by 55 cents to sell at $9.73 per gallon. Kerosene will also go down by 41 cents and will retail at $7.36 per gallon. The prices for premium gasoline and diesel will remain the same. Coming up in the countdown to the UDP Leadership Convention, Patrick Faber says he is working the base. And 2 men are arrested for separate murders in the north.
Hello, friends. This is Dr. Bob Roberts.
The countdown to the February 9th UDP Leadership Convention is down to the last 5 days, and Deputy Prime Minister Patrick Faber is facing political opponent John Saldivar in a leadership race for the incumbent United Democratic Party. While Saldivar has chosen not to grant an interview in the days leading up to the Sunday's leadership convention amid the Lev Derman scandal, Faber spoke with the media this afternoon, touching on everything from his campaign activities to corruption within his party and even the Lev Derman fiasco itself. In discussing his chances of defeating Saldivar at the party leaders' convention for a second time in nearly 3 years, Faber admits that contrary to popular belief, he is not the underdog in the race and that he has all confidence that the delegates will vote in his favor.
I'm very comfortable at where we are now. I have managed to meet those delegates who I believe are going to support me, and in fact some of those who are not. As you know, as in any political race, you will have those who support you and those who don't. The idea is to get the majority of the people who can cast a ballot to vote for you, and I believe at this point I'm comfortable to say that we have that majority, but it is a game or an initiative that never ends, so we have to work all the way up. I have taken a break from the campaigning this morning. I thought it would only be the morning, but as you've seen, it's well into the afternoon because of my meeting with the BNTU, but as soon as I am able to wrap up this meeting, I resume my campaign all the way up to Sunday. In terms of support, I am not the underdog. In fact, I continue to maintain the support of the majority of those delegates in my view. So the people who really matter, the base, is my support. I continue to enjoy the support of some of my colleagues, not all of them, and in fact I would be bold enough to say not even a lesser amount of them than the last time, but that does not mean that we're not ready and able. Remember that there are quite a few unelected people who are at the head of our constituencies as well, and there is a reason why those people support me, but their vote is just as powerful as the vote of a minister on that day. And in fact, all the base, all the other delegates are just as powerful as any minister. So, while I don't want it to be interpreted that I don't appreciate or I'm not seeking the support of my ministerial colleagues, you'll never know. Some of them who were on that poster with Minister Saldivar may well be casting their ballots in my favor. I am of the very strong opinion that that is the case.
Faber's vote-seeking activities commenced with the launch of his leadership campaign in September of last year. Since then, he has been canvassing delegates in all 6 districts and was en route to Corozal this evening following the BNTU sit-down. In speaking about his campaign, Faber spoke about the concerns of the delegates he has met with.
Our delegates, and in fact the wider number of people in our party, are very concerned about our chances to win the next election. So anything that hampers us from doing that, one of the things that I have clearly seen, and it is overwhelming, is that the delegates and the wider people in the party don't want the kind of divisive actions that are now very much characteristic of this campaign. And so the appeal by the party officials continue for us to try to keep as civil as possible a campaign as we move into Sunday, and I have tried all that I could do in order to make sure that that happens. It is a sustained and continuous effort. You notice that there are some matters that I don't speak about at all, even though you try to prod me to do it. I don't speak on them not because I'm afraid of those issues, but I believe that sometimes we can deal with those matters internally for the party. It is not that I don't believe these matters are important. I try to address them in other ways rather than blasting our party, because the job of bringing things back together will be so very important. But on the specific matter of scandals and so on, I try to keep positive and run my own campaign. I try not to campaign on what others have done, but more on what I have done. And I have tried to use my record as somebody who has moved up the ranks in my own party. I don't think that anybody can dispute that. I have done all the journeys in terms of positions in this party.
His many detractors describe him as petty and vindictive, personal and professional attributes that don't cast Patrick Faber in the best light. While those criticisms are widely held, some published and others verbalized, they haven't really been said to his face. When we had the chance to quiz the leadership aspirant earlier today, we asked him to respond to those seemingly unflattering characterizations.
The biggest criticism from your political detractors, sir, is that you're petty and you're vindictive. I think everyone who has come out against Patrick Faber in writing or orally has said that. How do you respond to persons who describe either your leadership style or your personality as such?
Well, I am very passionate about the things that I believe in. I think all of you in the media know that. And if that is what people interpret sometimes as being a bit feisty, then I suppose that is criticism that I ought to take and take it well if I am to lead the party and also to lead the country. I am always very, very dynamic in my thoughts. I'm always looking for ways to improve. The difference between me and many other politicians, of course, is my age. I'm very young, and when I started out, I was very young. And some people form their opinions of me at a very early stage and run with that all the way. You know, I would not run from the police again, certainly. I would not go through that chase again, you know. So there are things that you naturally experience over the time, 12 years this month that I've been in office as a minister, and there are things that I would do very differently today than what I would have done years ago. So I take those criticisms and take them well, and I ask that those who have formed such opinions look at the fact as well that my record speaks much differently in terms of how we've managed the Ministry of Education and all the other portfolios which I hold. I am sure that people will agree that while there are rocky times, that we've done by and large a good job at it. I certainly hear that from the stakeholders, even the BNTU.
The National Trade Union Congress of Belize has given government an ultimatum by when it has to show progress in the implementation of the United Nations Convention Against Corruption, UNCAC. While the umbrella organization has given the Barrow administration until month end to prove itself, Deputy Prime Minister Patrick Faber admits that there's more to be done in carrying out the UNCAC, despite the existing recommendation from the United Nations to hold off on all activities pending the report from Tuvalu and Haiti. He maintains that accountability is necessary.
NTUCB is saying that if there's no progress on that front in terms of implementation, they may take action.
I've heard that. I don't know much about what they are pledging to do, though, in terms of that kind of action. But I don't know that we've not been doing what we ought to be doing in terms of UNCAC. And, you know, I've been grilled a whole lot about the corruption issue. Maybe it is because of my aspiration for leadership. But my final comment on that is that I view the UNCAC as something that's very important. If it is that I'm allowed to lead the country, people can be assured of my greatest commitment to ensure that we're doing what we need to do in terms of being accountable.
2 men have been charged for separate murders that occurred in the north over the weekend. Police have charged Jesus Monteroso for the murder of Daniel Cano. The sales clerk reportedly stabbed Cano multiple times in the wee hours of February 2nd as they socialized in Concepcion village in the Corozal district. Monteroso was detained within hours of the fatal stabbing, which is believed to have been motivated by jealousy.
We were good. We were having a good moment and we were drinking a couple beers. And he was there, right? Okay, when then, the young man reached there, which is my nephew, right? He arrived with his car, and then he entered the house, and he was there, and I even present them, the two of them, both of them, right? And they were conviving there, and there was two of my sisters-in-law watching TV, and then the guy that did this, he went to see one of my sisters-in-law because they have one baby. So they were talking, And I told the man, I'm going for some cigarettes. And I entered my house. When I came out, I see that, and I saw that the deceased was with my wife. He was standing with one piece of stick. But then I see he can't move. And I say, what happened to you, Daniel? And he didn't answer me. And when I see he dropped down. But before he dropped down, I saw when my nephew was coming toward him. So I pushed him and I told him, if you did come here only if you do trouble, go out of my house, right? I chased him out. And then when the man dropped, I get in a hurry and I went to see what happened. And when he dropped, he only told me 2 times. He stopped me. Maybe he thought the deceased went to see his girlfriend or something, like he get jealous because before he left, he told me, he told one of my sisters-in-law that 3-6 were left, and he said, tomorrow we are going to drink it. Tomorrow we're going to drink the 3-6.
So maybe he got jealous. Your nephew got jealous.
I think he got jealous.
Corozal police have charged a Libertad resident for the stabbing murder of Juan David Mendez. The accused is Diego Correa, who is believed to have stabbed Mendez once to the body and left him for dead on a dirt road in Concepcion village in Corozal. Mendez's body was discovered on the morning of February 2nd by his nephew in proximity to where he was staying in the village. As we said, Correa has been formally arrested and charged, but on Monday the police department had not determined a motive for the crime. After the break, Simplex Limited from Corozal retains the Hilltop property.
Hi, my name is Rodney Lord, delegates Mesopotamia and also the chairman of Mesopotamia. We are here today
Justice Courtney Abel has made a determination in a case brought by the Public Service Union against the Belmopan City Council, the Ministry of National Resources, and Simplex Design Limited. In 2018, the Hilltop property, home to the Public Service Union for decades, was quietly sold to Simplex Design Limited, a Chinese-owned company from Corozal. Since then, the PSU has been fighting to recover the property from Simplex and even solicited support from the Prime Minister to resolve the issue. Attorney Esteban Pereira, on behalf of Simplex Design Limited, applied that the matter be struck out on the grounds that the dispute is between the PSU and the Belmopan City Council, which sold the property. On January 3rd, Justice Abel Grant agreed, and so, at least for now, the matter of the ownership of the land is beyond dispute.
They had a list of reliefs that they were claiming against the defendants. After carefully reviewing it, we were of the view that there was no cause of action pleaded against the second defendant, which is our client, Simplex. And as a result, we decided to file an application to have the entire claim struck out as against Simplex. The reason behind this is simple. It's that our client, Simplex, holds a land certificate. And under our laws, if you have a land certificate under the registered land system, that's what you refer to as an indefeasible title. Ultimately, the court agreed with our position and we were successful in having the matter struck out as against Simplex. And so currently, there is no claim against us in respect to our title. We hold the title until and unless it's ever set aside. What happened yesterday was more of an application to strike out the case itself based on the fact that the pleadings by the claimants did not suggest any fraud or mistake against our client. But there was no, the claim wasn't actually held in terms of a hearing and to verify the evidence or to go through any details. It was more of an application to strike out.
But it means that Simplex is the undisputed owner of Hilltop?
Yes, at this time, yes.
According to Pereira, the Registered Land Act gives two opportunities for the court to set aside a land title: when the title was issued in error or if it was part of a fraudulent transaction. As such, Simplex Design Limited is legitimately the sole owner of the Hilltop property. An eviction notice was issued in 2019 to the PSU by Simplex, and it is known that there were negotiations initiated by the union to purchase the property from the private company.
We have a counterclaim against the PSU, wherein we are seeking that the PSU vacate the property, and that's to be heard.
So now on Monday you all will initiate that action, as I understand it, to eject them from the property which Simplex owns.
The claim for the eviction has already been filed. It's already before the court. In fact, it forms a part of this very claim. But that hearing will come up for the first time next week. And then from there, the court will hear the case and will take